my gosh. I'm working on it. The iPad was... All right, video. There we go.
Ryan, tell him your big news.
I got a kiln.
Oh my word.
Oh my gosh, that kiln venting episode got so many downloads compared to some of the other ones.
Hang on. I want my headphones. How the crap?
Can you close the door, Ryan?
She's gonna be done here in a second.
Microphone. Hang on, I'm trying to figure out how to connect
Thing is, it's not coming through the door. It's because it shares a wall with the bathroom, so it's
Well,
right.
screw that.
She'll be done here in a second.
Okay, well, I'm recording the episode, so just so you know.
Oh, good.
Already.
Okay. Do I, if I'm using an iPad, do I need to have I can't use Bluetooth headphones?
Why
I
can't
don't
you?
know.
I think you can join Bluetooth on your iPad. You're saying Skype is on your iPad?
Yeah. Let me
You
see.
should be able to. As long as
Yeah,
they'll last an hour straight.
Oh gosh, yeah. It says connected, but it's not coming through on Skype.
Maybe Skype has its own audio.
Go
output
into
settings.
file. Oh, you're on an iPad. Go into, so the Skype has audio and video settings.
Okay. We're going to edit this part out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we are.
I gotta change my microphone. Anyway, thanks for that.
I mean, I can use our computer, but...
Change your microphone. What do you mean? You're not using your good one?
Yeah, the Skype microphone wasn't on the Yeti. But I mean, it was in GarageBand. It was fine.
Oh, okay.
What's up a bit? So you guys aren't staring at my...
Hey, Ryan, is your Skype on your Yeti?
Let's find out. Audio. Yep.
Figured it out.
Sweet.
Hey,
Becca,
there we
you're
go.
not going to record anything on GarageBand, right? Not
No.
that it would matter anyways, because we couldn't hear Josh if it doesn't record on Skype.
Right.
So.
How do I get rid of that?
Does it say
Sweet.
it's recording on your thing?
It says 5 is recording the call.
Okay, good.
Yep, that's what it says on mine.
Perfect. Hopefully
Sweet.
it doesn't
That audio
malfunction.
should be much better.
It's about the
That
same,
sounds pretty
actually.
Where's
Oh.
the microphones on that, Josh? Are they at the bottom of the...
They're right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Minus this lovely,
Your
headgear
very
thing going on.
voluptuous earlobes.
Yeah, exactly. Not my glistening head. Polished it too today. That was... Yeah.
Nice. Looks good.
Look at that huge mug. Is that yours or is that somebody?
No, this is Larry. His name is Larry Spears.
See, my dad
And
would
he's-
like that.
He's out of Brown County, Indiana, and he's 70s era potter, chill, just really awesome. This is gas fired Cone 10.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like it.
I wish you could put your iPhone upside down when you're charging it and the notes would be right because, you can't, set it down.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
I wonder if my notes can rotate. Nope.
Do it sideways, though, can't you?
Yes.
Sideways
yeah.
and it'll scroll.
Fine.
Come on, Becca.
Cool. Come on, get with the tech.
Josh, you were asking about all these questions. I was like, man, I'm giving him homework or something. Or you just want to
what?
make sure you know the answers.
Oh, I just didn't know, I just didn't know what all was going to be fired at me and what I should think about for the day and come back with you guys with.
Good Lord.
And I would preface it kind of like you guys did on your kiln venting podcast of look, we're not teaching, biblical truth here. This is just a couple people's opinions.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
say that again when we actually start.
Okay. Yeah. Just one guy's opinion.
Should we start?
I mean, I think that's understood though. With Becca and I, we're like, I would say the majority of this is probably entertainment value, more so than education.
Never
I don't know. Is it
underestimate-
50-50?
Never underestimate the human species. Okay?
Oh, especially when Becca chimes in with your laughter before you say a sentence. Like you're like, well, like, oh, this is gonna be good.
Can't
I get
believe I'm
so
saying
excited.
This, but blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's probably 50-50. 50% educational,
Yeah.
50% entertainment.
Oh, sure.
More like 75-25.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we starting?
We can
Sure.
start. I'm ready to start.
We're live.
We're live. Hello.
Yeah.
Who else
Hi.
is here?
Joshua Heim. Hi. From JH
Joshua
Pottery
Heim.
Works.
You have
That's me.
2 minutes to tell us who you are.
Okay.
Starting now.
Okay, go. Name is Joshua Heim. Majored in clay, which is a real thing, and I've been doing it since high school. And it is a real thing. Quit giggling. Try to think. Intern for Kevin Lehman's Pottery in Pennsylvania, and then I moved to Indianapolis and worked for Amico for a couple years, and then ran a pottery studio on the south side of Indy called Beech Grove Clay Works. And then a golden opportunity came up to buy some property and a flower shop and a greenhouse, and put my studio on there. And I've been doing that for the last. It'll be I can count. Yeah, it'll be 5 years this September. That the studio has been in existence, and it's a class-based clay studio. And then I make custom pottery for people on the side and try to learn all the things. So that was under 2 minutes. Bam.
Where's that located at?
Oh,
Where are you located at now?
I am in Warren, Indiana, which is about 25 minutes south of Fort Wayne.
Is that in a song? Like, was that in the Music Man or something?
I don't. Sure.
I don't know for sure. Oh, well,
Is that Willie Nelson's
if you
I've Been
remember,
Everywhere or something? I don't know.
if you want to know a little bit more about Josh's like backstory and stuff, we had an episode with him a while back.
Yeah.
I don't remember the number, Josh.
It was Josh and Carrie with Becca when Becca was making her way through Indiana and Michigan and
yeah.
all that
so
stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what number was it, Ryan?
I'm looking.
Faster.
So you know a friend of ours, Rebecca Graves.
Yeah,
out of
we're
Indianapolis.
good pals.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know her from when you were in Indianapolis working at Amico? And
No, we didn't meet till we moved and bought the property, and then I was doing. There's a pottery tour up in Goshen, Indiana, every September, and put on by who is it? Justin Roshank and Dick Lehman and oh goodness, Fuzzy Schwartz. Well, Brandon is first name, but let's be honest, we call him Fuzzy. Who else? I'm going to forget names. Anyway, I had a booth up there one year, and that's where Rebecca and I met. We were catty corner from each other, and I was highly intimidated by her.
Who wouldn't be, honestly.
I know. And then you meet her and get into the little circle of trust, and you're like, we're siblings. Like, oh my gosh, you're my big sister. And she's just been awesome in terms of being around us, my family, my business, all that sort of thing for the last 3.5, 4 years. So
what were you intimidated by? Was it the mohawk or was it the?
No, she didn't have it at that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she didn't have the mohawk at that point. It was long.
Really?
I know. Yeah. We're like, what?
That looks like we need to dig up into the files and see some of that.
I'll find it.
It's like me with hair. People are like, that's not true. It didn't happen.
By the way, so if you want to hear the episode, it's episode 31. It's called Pottery, Flowers, and Family with Josh and Carrie Heim.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
It was Rebecca is on it and then some. Like every aspect of her booth is thought through, how it's set up, where she has things to grab your eye, graphic design, like all of it is just, it's Jedi level, and it's one of those like, dang, I set up some apple crates and a folding table.
Right.
That sounds like my first show. I didn't even have a tablecloth.
Yeah. So yeah, and then it just turned into a conversation, and she was like, hey, if you ever, with your flower shop and stuff, I do graphic design on the side for people I like. So if you need help, let me know. And that's really kind of how it started. Was our flower shop does a Christmas open house, and we wanted to do really nice postcards to mail out. And Rebecca has done the graphics ever since. And then that obviously turned into graphics for the studio and shirt design and just business information, life information, all the things above. So she's pretty great.
Yeah, it's nice to have somebody that you could bounce ideas off of or go to for expertise when you don't know certain things. So I feel like the three of us have almost become sort of that, as well as some other folks. But
and especially with
go to somebody.
Yeah, differing personality types. I don't want to ask a question to someone that thinks exactly the way I do, because I'm stuck inside my head.
You're going to go through the same process that they go through to solve a problem. Yeah.
Yep. I want someone else's completely different perspective on a specific scenario. So
yeah, true.
Yeah, I think we first. I guess did the three of us first interact through the pot swap like 2 years ago? Is that the first time?
Yes. Yes, it was.
So it was pot swap, and I think Josh, somebody got your mug, and they were shouting it out, and I think Colby from Spinning Glory got your mug.
Yeah,
and
that's how Colby and I met.
And shouting it out, and then for some reason, I think we saw some back and forth with. I think Colby was talking a lot about appreciating you as expertise about your kiln expertise or whatever problem she had. She would go to you with questions. So, and then I think that might have been how we got intermingled.
Well, it's not, but we'll use that story.
I don't know. What's your perspective?
Well, then we met up at Ensika too.
Yeah. Right. No, I mean, the reason we started like actually conversing with Josh was because he had a complaint.
Oh. Awkward.
So we won't go into that, but that is.
Yeah.
But that's it was pot swap early on, right?
It was pot swap. Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So we often go to you. I often go to you, or I don't know if Becca does, but I often go to you with questions about kiln stuff or firing stuff, which is kind of a lot of the questions that we'll have for you today. But
I only ask Josh questions 5 times a day.
5 times a day.
We go in waves, Becca. Becca and I we won't talk for a couple days, and then it's like every afternoon.
Yeah.
Which is great.
We're pretty consistent like that.
Yeah.
Have you been? I know you've been a little bit stir crazy with the studio lately, right? Without having people in there, so I'm sure having some folks to talk to.
Yeah, you are, and it was when you guys did your podcast with Rebecca Graves, and you guys were talking about the studio dynamics in her studio and your guys' studios and the introvertedness and just the enjoying being in your guys' own space by yourselves. That's not me. Man, I like you guys a lot, but I love people. I thrive off of being around people. And it was the first couple days were great because I didn't have to pick up after myself, and I didn't have to worry about students. And then it turned into the loneliness of just like, well, I guess I'll go to the studio by myself. And then that was balanced out by having a grad student be able to come in and continue working to finish up their education because the local university closed their campus.
Was that grad? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Was he like freaking amazing, or am I just imagining that?
So Parker, I'm trying to think of when he got into pots.
What's his last name?
Hunt, Hunt, like the ketchup without the SZ, whatever. And moving on. That was a horrible analogy. He from Alabama interned with Roshank for a year and helped him, and lived in Goshen for a year, and then he got into the grad program at Ball State. And then obviously mid-April, the university shut their campuses down, and then we have a mutual friend, and she was like, "Hey, would you like to meet Parker and let him be in your studio?" And I was like, "Yes, I'll take people."
Yeah.
He's not who I was thinking of, but his work is
Okay.
really cool. His Instagram is Parker M Hunt, ParkerMhunt.
Yep, I got a cool less than 2 minute video on him making a big sectional pot.
Ooh, he was on the Potters cast.
Yeah.
Oh, he was. Oh, that's cool. Nice. Yeah. You guys were too.
Yeah. We were at some point.
Yeah. That was
not
fun.
because of our pottery, though.
It was because of the podcast.
It was because of the podcast.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well,
yeah, so there weren't strict. I guess because your studio is on your property, did you get a little bit of leeway with certain things that you could get away with, or you couldn't have classes, so you couldn't have people there for classes or members?
Yeah, so I had people were able to a couple of my very regular members have wheels at home. So they would come in, buy clay, we'd chat a minute, and then they would go back to their house, or they'd drop off pots, or they say, "Hey, when are you doing the next glaze firing? Can I be in the studio for a half hour by myself glazing?" Yeah, that's fine. Things like that. And we're in a very rural community. Our county has 11 cases. So.
Wow.
Yeah. We made the news because there was an outbreak. We had 4 more cases develop.
Oh, wow. So did it hit your community pretty hard with shutting businesses down with such rural folks
yes
there?
And no.
Well,
yes and no. Yeah, hey, shush. Yes and no. So the food places obviously got hit because and Becca knows this. I mean, family is huge in this area. We go and do things together. And so we have 6 different food places in our town. And it just was, oh crap, we can't all go in and eat. So they really kicked it into gear and got on carry out and delivery like nobody's business. So our community just kind of turned inward and said, fine, we can't go anywhere. We're just going to continue to support what is here. And luckily for that, we all, for the most part, have been weathering this pretty adequately.
Thankfully for Josh and the flower business, people still like flowers a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because people couldn't be around each other, they went, oh, let's send flowers. So that alone was insane because we had Easter and Mother's Day to contend with flower-wise. And then we have a greenhouse on site, and that opened the first week of May. And in 8 days, we did 6 weeks worth of sales.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So that was and that, I guess the greenhouse and everything still falls under essential, sort of like a Lowe's and whatnot, right?
It does, yeah. Also because we provide a service for funerals, and because funerals were deemed essential, our flower shop could stay open. So we only had 1 employee at the time out of the 3 that we normally have. And then once we were able to lock in that payroll program money, we were able to bring the other 2 back. And then we opened our greenhouse, and it was a nice Saturday, and you could tell everybody wanted out, and we cleared through half of our inventory in 8 days. So it was.
Yay!
It was insane. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what it's. Yeah. It was yay, and then on the flip side, I'm so glad that's not every day.
That's the success stories we want to hear, and that we never want to live again.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Anyway.
We should get to brass tacks. Let's start with the questions.
Yeah. So we're gonna ask about glazing and kiln stuff.
Because he's our kiln guru.
Yeah, where did your kiln guru-ness and science-y background come from?
Sure. The kiln part and the glaze chemistry and clay all came from the fact that in my brain, it was okay, well, if I need to know how to do this, I need to know how to fix it too. And literally everything at some point on my kiln has broken, and I've replaced it. So there you have that knowledge. And I've used 2 different kilns with 2 different control boards. So I'm used to, say, an Excel control board with an Excel kiln, but I've also had an L&L kiln. So dealing with their maintenance and then their Bartlett controllers. So that's helpful to, it just comes from doing. But then the flip side of it, we were talking about personalities earlier. My brain constantly asks the question, who says how come and why? Like it just, so if you lay down, oh, well, this is the way it is, quietly, I'm like, well, why? Who says? What science backs that up? What science proves that? How come? And then there's a hunger to know and understand that and just research until I have an understanding of it and then want to know more. So, which is great now that kicked in later in life, because that was not present growing up. It was.
Yeah. I feel like
Josh struggled in school.
When I was growing up, I was always the why. So it'd be like the inquisitiveness and the curiosity, not really like the stubbornness. I mean, I guess some people might think that you're stubborn to not just accept it versus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to figure out the brains of how to approach a problem like that and just say, okay.
And I think potters, I mean, in general, we're pretty problem solving by nature. I mean, I know that's kind of a blanket statement, but honestly, if you want to find the most efficient way to do something, and efficient could also equal lazy, and that's fine. Ask a potter how to do something, and we're like, you need to do it in 10 steps, we'll do it in 2.
But we'll take 20 to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if that's how you are, but that's exactly how I am. I will take a year to figure out a problem that will save me 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Sometimes 4 years.
And to also go, I don't know it all. Who can I go ask to? That's to be able to go, to be able to say that. Yeah. And just go, look, I don't know the answer. I might know someone that does, or can you help me with this?
Yeah.
That's also, people should be quicker to get to that point, I feel like.
And you're always really open on social, and I think you're doing some YouTube videos about instructing some of these kind of things of like how witnesses cone work and, troubleshooting certain problems you come across. So you're always pretty open to answer any questions, and it's not like you're not keeping too much close to the vest or anything like that. No,
because it's not, why would we hold that information hostage? You know what I mean? Like,
and if you're holding that information hostage and you're listening to this, you're an asshole.
Pretty much.
That's it.
That's it. That's the end of the story. Because it's just, I mean, we have access to, art and clay and the ability for people to afford a kiln in their garage. But they didn't really have any other education outside of maybe a local clay center or something like that. And so it's understanding, how do I load? How do, do I use kiln wash? Do I not? Do I use witness cones? Do I not? What's a hold? What's a controlled cool down? Why is that impactful? Or to be able to look at your pots and go, why does this keep happening? How do I problem solve this scenario? Why anybody would, like I said, withhold that information is just baffling to me. So to me, I feel like I can't get that information out enough, or can't get it out quick enough. So,
do most of those questions come from folks that have their own home studios and they're kind of solo, so they don't really know who to ask, or they're not in a community space where they have resources locally to ask?
Yeah, I would say, obviously it's, my own personal students, and then through social media, like 6 ways to Kevin Bacon sort of thing, like 6 ways to Josh. It was, oh, hey, this person that follows Colby from Spinning Glory reaches out to me because Colby said, hey, you're having this issue too. Go ask Josh. This is how he solved it for me. And explain the litany. Bee's Knees Art by Amanda, who makes the bugged out. Gosh, I love her pots. She was having pinholing issues. And Isaac Shu, I think, put me in touch with her. And she was like, hey, here, you're the guy to talk to about pinholes. I'm like, sure. You're Bee's Knees Art by Amanda. Like, what are you talking to me for? And then we ended up shooting the breeze for probably a half hour through DMs. And I'm like, so what's the glaze issue? So, and then, through all that, then she ships me a mug, as a thank you. And I'm like, this what makes the clay community amazing.
So true.
So.
All right, Becca, do you want to get into some of these?
Yes.
You mentioned pinholing.
Yes. Bring it.
What is pinhole?
Pinholing is
'Cause I have
where
that
gas.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So normal pinholing is your gases that are trapped in the clay that don't get released through the bisque firing come back through the surface of your pottery piece during the glaze firing and create those little bitty holes within your glaze. That usually happens between 1300 degrees and 1600 degrees. That's your off-gassing stage. That is where all those last little bits of material, gases, organic material, all that stuff is coming back through the surface of the clay and then being evaporated. Anything above that temperature range, then all you're doing is just more vitrifying your clay. So it's important to move through that temperature range of 1300 and 1600 during your bisque firing pretty slowly. That way those gases can come out. If you move through that pretty quickly, then they'll stay trapped in your clay. And then once the glaze firing hits, they come back through the surface and cause obnoxious little bitty holes. Yes, Rebecca, I see your hand.
I don't want to
Yes,
interrupt.
Professor.
Do we have permission to put your bisque firing and your glaze firing schedule on the Instagram?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll do that as
totally
like
fine.
a post.
Yeah, and it's no trade secret, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I've always wanted a better bisque program, and who posted it? It's either Ceramic Arts Daily or Ceramics, one of them posted it a while ago. And it's the exact same thing I follow. And Mike, who runs Continental Clay, where I get all my clay, that's the same program he recommended because we're using a really heavy iron clay. Excuse me, and I was getting bloating issues. And ever since switching that program over, we've basically taken pinholes down to 0, and also taken student pots exploding down to 0 or 0.5% sort of thing. That basically went away. So it's just all around a phenomenal bisque program, and it doesn't take any longer than a regular.
I disagree, but
listen.
I got the program, and it was right in the middle of summer last year. And I got the program, and I texted him a day later, and I was like, "Here's the deal. I can't do this.
I ain't got time for this."
I was like, "This is way too long. Give me a shortened version."
Yeah, I think I did. I made a condensed version, and it's still interesting.
So
it works fine.
For troubleshooting this, could there do the pinhole? The risk of pinholes, does that vary by the clay you use? Is it by the glaze recipe? Is it by what bisque temperature you go to? Besides the easing through that 1300 to 1600 degrees.
Sure, I would think your clay, obviously the clay you're using is definitely going to matter because the recipes, even just for regular stonewares, are different.
The glazes matter too.
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm starting with the clay. Listen,
he's starting inside out. Becca.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You don't put a glaze on the kiln shelf with nothing.
So yeah, your clay is going to make a difference whether it's a high iron clay, whether you're using porcelain, all that sort of thing. And then definitely your glazes too, whether they are, depending on your base ingredient, that's going to be impacted as well. What? Rebecca raises her hand for those of you in the radio,
I was just gonna say that my glazes that pinhole the most.
Mm-hmm.
None of my glazes pinhole except for my iron glaze and my cobalt glaze. So those are the ones that I would say are good to watch out for. Cobalt.
You have all the same base in your glazes, right? So it's just your colorants that are adjusting.
Yeah, and I have all the same clay, so my tests are pretty across the board.
Yeah, that's what I did too. I have a semi-matte, I have a gloss, and then my white is a base recipe of just 3 ingredients.
Yeah.
So same with the clear.
Yeah, I have issues with the pinholing in one of my glazes, and I don't know. I generally try to hold longer. It's a Joe's green, the dark deep green. So I don't know if it's the thickness of the glaze sometimes, or if it's the holding at the end. I generally do fast glaze, but I also was doing an 08 bisque before. Now I'm doing an 06 bisque.
Okay.
Because it's hard to like, you say like pinholing. Okay, how do you solve that? You can hold for 5 minutes at the end of the firing. Like that's one way. Or if you understand the sciencey part, you're like bisque higher.
Technically.
Or you're like bisque higher. So it's like getting to that answer that actually like solves the problem versus, something you would post and say, hold for longer at the end.
Oh yeah. The clay wives' tales on social media drive me up a wall because those things of like, well, bisque hotter. Well, that's stupid because all you're doing is vitrifying your clay more. Everything after that has been burned off. You're dealing with just clay.
Bisque hotter if your glazes are really freaking thick. That way they don't soak in.
Yeah, so they don't absorb. Exactly. But the root of the problem starts in that off-gassing stage between 1300 and 1600 degrees. If you can slow down your bisque firing using a ramp program to do that, that will be the beginning of alleviating pinholing. The second thing could be to add a hold. Another thing to do would be add a controlled cool down. Now, the risk with a controlled cool down is you could also change your glazes. Your glossy glazes could go matte and vice versa. They could also move a whole lot more because you're keeping the glaze at the fluid stage a whole lot longer than normal. So
I will try to go on.
No, I was just going to say the start is look at your bisque program.
I'll try to on our Instagram, once we get to that point, I'll try to like walk through the tutorial on
solving it.
Tutorial on how to set up a program on your kiln and set up the because just yesterday just yesterday I was trying to figure out how to do a slow cool down, and he sent me his YouTube video, which was really amazing. So I'll try to like share those on the Instagram.
Especially if you have a couple different kilns, because you have
we can put it in
a
highlight,
an Olympic, right?
Yeah.
So
I should probably that video was private because somebody else was asking for it, and so I just made it real quick to post it on YouTube to share it easily. I should just toggle that over and make it public.
You should, because it's so much better than the other version that's out there, the only one who doesn't speak at all. Terrible.
Yeah, I pretty much had to call NASA to figure that one out. And be like, hey guys, how do I put the cool down on a Bartlett controller?
It's so dumb.
It's almost above like put a chicken on your head, jump on one foot, and pray to the demigod of yogurt, and yes, you'll get the cool down controlled.
Right, like skip this program and go to this one. Like, what the fuck? Like, why?
Yeah, pretty much. And then you get an Excel, and it's like glaze, how fast, hold, yes or no, and then the next question is, do you want a cool down? Yeah. Well, thank you, Excel. That was magical. I would love a cool down.
Yeah.
And then you're done.
The new Genesis controllers, like the fancy ones, I have one for my big kiln, and it has it like shows a graph, and it's like how would you like to cool this down?
Exactly. Would you like some tea afterwards? I sure would.
And it tells me that like, do you want to turn the fan on? And I'm like, is there a fan? I don't know.
That's awesome.
You're like, there's the fan.
I've never turned it on, so I don't know. Like, I don't want to.
Your garage door opens up. How do you know how to do that?
Like, I don't have an entire. Like, I don't want to ruin an entire kiln.
No kidding. Huh.
I haven't turned the fan on. I don't know what it means. But
so that was a long question about pinholes. Start with your bisque program. Ultimately, look at how quickly the program moves through 1300 degrees to 1600 degrees. Slow that down to start with, and then start that first, and then so the main goal is alleviate as many variables as possible.
Yeah.
So start with that one, and then go to your hold temp or cool down, and then and then glaze thickness and all that stuff. So.
And let's say somebody takes their stuff to get it fired elsewhere, and they're getting pinholes, so they have no control over the firing.
Yeah.
Would you say maybe look at your glazes and kind of approach your glazes at a different angle?
Yes and no. I would, if you're taking it to get it fired elsewhere, and this is kind of my soapbox as well, it really irritates me when I get students that have been in a clay community setting, and I'm like, well, did you like it? Well, my pots kept blowing up. That's not necessarily your fault. Yeah, or the glazes never came out right. That's also not necessarily your fault either. It is on the studio tech, the intern, the whoever runs that place, to make sure that the kiln programs are on point and the glazes are reliable. Because people are paying you money to fire there. They want to be satisfied. So
true.
Sorry, that's my little. Gosh,
I was more referring to people that like Seattle Pottery Supply does glaze firing for people, but they don't like supply the glazes. So like people do their own glazes. Like sometimes that's not even something that can even like. If I talked to Seattle Pottery and was like, "Hey, you're firing this wrong," they'd be like, "Screw you," like
somewhere else,
you know.
Which is frustrating because they shouldn't.
Well, I mean, they have
know
new
better, but yeah.
So who knows if they do that now?
Okay.
But,
yeah, you can check your glazes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What next, Becca? What do you think?
What you got?
I'm like so excited for this episode, and that's why I keep interrupting. So
You're fine. My favorite's you raising your hand.
Okay. What's blistering? Wait, the next three are what's blistering, shivering, and dunting. So if those all go together.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm gonna look at my notes too.
For me, pinholing is most common. That's why I asked that first. So
yeah.
I have no experience with the other three. So
yeah, blistering are you guys referring to that where like you get the big craters?
Probably.
In your clay.
Is that like similar to a pinhole, but it's a rounded bubble? Is that a blister?
Yeah, or are we doing bloating? Which would you?
I don't know. I don't know the difference.
I've had blisters. So blisters are like almost like a crater I've seen on some pots before, where it does look like a pinhole, and that's in some heavy iron glazes or heavy iron clays that I've had. Yeah, like Becca's ramen bowl she's got.
So it's similar to a pinhole, but it's round. It's softened. It's not actually sharp.
It pops.
Yes. Yeah, it almost looks like the surface of the moon, like a little crater.
Yeah, like bubbles a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I gotcha. Okay. I think I have a pot here.
Yeah, every now and then our white glaze does that. And it's a little frustrating. And that can be refired. I've seen that happen and remelted. I've had some blistering and then dip the pot in a clear, which does absolutely nothing to the color, but just adds a little more silica. And so then when we refire it, that fluxes out and melts and the blistering goes away.
So my iron glaze is my base glaze and then a shit ton of iron. Mm-hmm. And it blisters if it's not hot enough, cool enough. I don't know why. It doesn't pinhole. It specifically has bubbles that pop.
Okay.
And I always forget when I mix a new batch that I've in the past just dumped like 3 cups, or maybe like 3 16-ounce things of clear glaze into the.
Oh, okay.
Just to kind of like even it out, and it helps. But
I wonder then if there's a melt issue. Then I wonder if there's not enough melter to cause that, to get it to. Because if you're adding a little bit of clear, you're increasing your melting agent and your glass, and if that's fixing it, then that could be.
Yeah, I probably need to just reformulate it and put less iron in it.
Yeah,
I'd probably do the exact same thing. I just haven't.
Or up your alumina or whatever has boron in it. There's your melting agents, and maybe decrease the silica a little bit.
Yeah.
But those are blisters. Shivering or crawling is, the glaze literally just peels away from the clay and comes off. There you have a glaze fit issue. Because what's going on in the kiln, you always have a battle between who's going to contract to who. Is the glaze going to contract to the clay, or is the clay going to contract to the glaze? And there's always a fit battle going on. Now, normally 8 times out of 10, everybody's doing hunky-dory and it's chill and it's happy and everybody's good to go. But there are glazes that exist that will pull away from a pot and then literally just shiver right off.
I think shivering and crawling is different, isn't it? I feel like crawling correct me if I'm wrong, but shivering, like I've had a glaze when I did a glaze test that literally came out of the kiln and it all just like fell off. It like fell off after. And then crawling, I have glazes
is
that
during
like
in the melt.
Yeah, like let's say I put the glaze in and it was way too wet and it was starting to like move away, then it jumps off and then moves down. And that would be crawling, right?
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, we all throw intermixing terms around. Either way, the root issue is a glaze. The glaze does not fit the clay.
Yeah.
And where I see this in my studio is when students or members will buy pre-made glazes and then apply those with our dipping glazes.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
So they'll put our dipping glaze on first and then put a brush on glaze that's production, and that brush on glaze has an agent inside of it that wants to hold on to the pot because you applied it with a brush versus submerging the pot or pouring or spraying. And I've seen that kind of pull away too. So I try to tell people to put the brushing on first and then the dipping if possible. And then your dunting, that's always fun. That's a contraction issue, and that noise is when that pink, and then you see it split, and it's just like, oh, that's depressing.
And you can have delayed dunting, can't you?
Oh gosh, yeah, sure can. When a clay company doesn't fess up to putting low fire clay in their high fire clay and then sold it to people. Standard.
No names will be mentioned.
Does the dunting happen a lot in atmospheric firing stuff too, like wood firing? I feel like I might have. Is that where it like where it splits and it like you get like a corkscrew crack all the way down it?
Yeah, corkscrew crack, or I mean just serious fissures. I've had that happen in wood firing, but I made the mistake of putting a very high iron clay into the wood kiln, which basically just made it almost as brittle as glass, and all of them dunted, which, then I go, oh, okay, cool. That's good to know. And then I called the clay company about that. I was like, hey, by the way, don't put that clay in the wood kiln. They're like, yeah, why'd you do that? So,
you're like, I didn't.
It was an experiment from what I heard. It was, Posh John put it in there.
I feel like all of my glazes fit really, really well. Like, really well. None of them craze, which we'll get to in a second. But
I was going to say, you need to bring up crazing because that's similar to shipping. But
which we'll get to in a second. But I had one, like, vase that literally cracked all the way up in a spiral. And it's still intact. Still intact. It just cracked all the way around, and like it was so sad. Val was like, "Becca, this is the best vase you've ever made." And I'm like, "Yeah, figures." But yeah, like sometimes, like when a student makes something, I'll pull it out of the kiln, and it just like is a part. But it's not. I think it's got something to do with like the glazing. Because it is like once in a blue moon. It's not the glaze and it's not the clay. Like, because there's clearly I have pieces all over the freaking country. Like, and they haven't like fallen apart.
Could it be the certain glazes that are on top of each other, like layered and it's,
I've done
like
every single combination ever. And that you could in my studio. And like, I think it has something to do with the construction of the pieces a lot of the times. Maybe like, I don't know. Maybe like a minor crack that nobody knew about, or.
Yeah. I've had that happen before where I've picked up a mug by the lip and just squeezed, just barely hard enough. And it made a little hairline crack, and I didn't notice it even after the bisque. But man, once the glaze shows up, when the clay contracts, that crack becomes super present.
Yeah, but those cracks are usually glaze fills into them, and you're like, hey, that happened beforehand. This is like
afterwards.
This is like clearly afterwards. And I had plates do it too. Plates will definitely do it. But I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's like, that's got to be a firing thing. The slow cool down.
Maybe. You normally do that, right? Or no?
I don't do a slow cool down.
Okay. No. Or controlled cool down.
Mm-hmm.
What were you asking, Ryan? The crackling?
The crazing.
Crazing. Yeah. Let's talk about crazing.
Crazing. I feel like that's a really common one too.
Yeah, that deals with coefficient of expansion, which is just fancy talk for who shrinks to who. And I don't like saying shrink because people think one dimensional, as I do hand gestures for a podcast. You what?
Your glazes and stoneware needs to be equally yoked.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like somebody that's not the right size to wear like a small, and they're like a medium-sized shirt person, and they wear a small. So it's like it's too tight fitting. At some point, there's going to be some busting, and that's kind of what crazing is, right?
It's fat guy in a little coat is what you're saying.
Yeah. Fat guy in a little coat.
Yeah, because go ahead, Rebecca. Let's hear it.
We forgot to tell people that this is not biblical.
That's right.
Okay, say that. Say the thing.
Stay tuned. So we're going to take a side tangent and a commercial break to represent our insurance agent, who will communicate with everybody that this is not biblical truth. This is just one of three people's knowledge and understanding on what he or she has learned and has come to understand. Clay and glaze break a lot of rules, so these are guidelines. But some things, yeah. Anyway, that's our and now back to our regular scheduled program. That's it.
All right, crazing.
That's crazy.
Batman in a little coat.
Batman in a little coat. Coefficient of expansion. The glaze is contracting tighter than the clay, and you get all those. I think they're pretty, especially when you're dealing with celadons. It's just so pretty. You get all those minor little cracks in the glaze, and quite honestly, I feel like the jury's out on can you use it? No, you can't. Don't have coffee with it. Don't have Coke.
Bullshit.
Yeah, I feel
like
use
it's
the pottery
blown out of proportion too much. But generally, would you say outside on functional pieces fine, inside less fine? You can use it in your home or whatever. Maybe second guess selling it, but I don't know.
I'm not going to plant my flag. Like, just because a pot has crazing on it doesn't mean that's not the pot to use or that sort of thing. I mean, pottery that was coming from the Orient for bajillions of years have, celadon crazed glazes. And, I have one and I'm using it, and it's my go-to coffee mug for this week. I'm going to wash it, but I like it, so I'm going to use it. Do I know it has crazing? Yes. Okay, fine. Deal with it. Don't. Yes, Rebecca, with a hand raise.
Also, I should mention that it does matter if your clay is fully vitrified in regards to the crazing. So, like, if if I sell one of my low fire paint-a-pot china crap and it crazes, and that is not okay. That is 100% not okay, because what happens is when it crazes, so crazing, basically your glaze is cracking all around. Everybody's seen it in their old dishes. Everybody knows what it looks like usually. They just didn't know that that's what the name was. But if it's on a low-fired piece, that clay is going to absorb water. And when it's crazed, it'll seep in, and then the water will expand, and it'll eventually pop off the glaze. Yep. So that's not okay. Not okay. No. But if your piece is vitrified, and it is completely food safe already. So, yes.
Yep. So the only risk of crazing at that point when it's vitrified is just the talk about bacteria getting stuck in it. But if you're washing your stuff like a normal person does, then the risk of that is almost zero. That's the problem I had when you just mentioned about vitrification, because I had pieces I was using one of those standard cone 6 to cone 10 clays, and then I would have the crazing, and then I would get the water leaking into a mug because there was crazing on the inside, and then you get the moisture on the table underneath the mug, and it's like, oh, okay, that's where crazing's not good, because you're selling a functional thing that's leaking, Yeah.
Yep.
No bueno.
Is the crazing also, is that what I was asking about, the pinging after a glaze fire, is that related to too quick of cooldown, and that is the sound of crazing happening with cracks happening after cooling? Or
I would venture.
What is
That's
the
a good
pinging
question.
Sound?
It. Go for it.
I
Rebecca,
have that
what
in
you got?
my.
I know that answer. So the pinging is crazing. It is not affected by how quickly you open your kiln lid. It will craze regardless of your. It is all. It doesn't matter how fast you cool down your kiln per se, but after it's past, what's the term? The expansion, thermal expansion.
Thermal expansion.
After it's past thermal expansion, which I think is like, I don't know, I'll have to Google it, what degree that is. But after that, it doesn't matter. Now, if you opened up your kiln at 500 degrees and your glazes didn't fit, it's going to craze and ping regardless. Mm-hmm. My glazes don't ping at all.
Near to mine.
Like, not at all. So if I open it up, now, if I open up the kiln and I hear a pop, that means that something dunted. That means that there was either dunting or like there was a piece that had a crack in it that I didn't realize. But it's not gonna ping because I opened it up too fast or not. The pinging happens because the glazes don't fit properly.
Okay.
Or
I think there's specific glazes that I have that do that. I think probably that goes back to that Joe's Green glaze, probably.
Yeah. Well, and your clear craze is a little bit too, but good luck finding a clear that doesn't.
Mine doesn't. My clear doesn't. It's also 3 ingredients.
I think he has the same clear, but the one that I have has a little crazing on it, but it's fine. It's just I don't know.
You brought up a point, and I couldn't remember. Your one glaze. That was something I discovered between graduating college and making it on my own, that sort of thing. How glaze sharing was phenomenal and willy-nilly, and everybody just was on the all right system with, oh yeah, the glaze works really well, it's totally fine. And then the book Mastering Cone 6 Glazes came out, which you need to read with 2 other books, a dictionary and a chemistry book, because oh my gosh. However, once I finally got through that, I mean, they're going down to talking about how many moles are in. I mean, this is science class from high school. Like, oh my gosh, I forgot that information. But what it allows you to do is look at a glaze recipe and look at the ratios and go, that's not okay. Or go, hey, that's not too bad. It's a little heavy on the silica, but you balanced it out with the right amount of melter. So that was really helpful. And there was a lot of glazes that get passed around that you're like, that's not an okay glaze, and we should really stop using it. But I feel like the science is now really catching up to, the science and technology is really catching up to our medium. And
I think you can plug those kind of any glaze into, what is it, glazy.org, and it'll give you your glaze on a graph and tell you like, this has got too much of this or not enough or whatever.
Yeah. It's a phenomenal program. What are you giggling at now?
I'm trying to find out thermal expansion. And so of course I went to digital fire. And and then it says, do your functional glazes do this? Fix them now. And it's got one that's crazed on the left.
Okay.
I just thought that was funny because we were just talking about it.
Let's see what other questions.
All right. What do you want next, Becca? What's a good one here that here, let's do the cone one since we talk a lot about glazing. Why do I need witness cones?
Because
what are they?
Well, witness cones, so normally what happens is there's a trial and somebody did something naughty, and so they call this witness cone on the jury, and it's just so that's why it's a witness cone, because it has to testify. That was awful. Moving on. Can I get a witness? Witness cones are pyrometric cones Yeah, we're all 7 on here. I apologize to anybody. The fact that the 3 of us are keeping it all together for this long is perfect.
And scary.
Yeah, because the "wanna go ride bikes" jokes are gonna come in. Witness cones are pyrometric cones that measure the internal atmosphere of your kiln. So, to me, it just makes complete sense to be using them in your glaze firing, because they're an indication of what is really going on inside the kiln versus your one thermocouple that is just telling you how hot something is.
And that's all given that you're using an electronic controller for your kiln.
Yes,
if you're using
exactly.
a kiln sitter, you would recommend them besides just a kiln sitter cone as well?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I would still recommend using witness cones. Because then you can see if you have cool spots of your kiln, you can see, okay, this part of my kiln flirts with cone 6.5, cone 7. This part is barely reaching cone 5. Things like that. They give you a very accurate reading as to what is going on inside your kiln. And if anything, with our medium, more information is better than none. So if you open your kiln and everything looks under fired, because you got an error code, or you didn't even get an error code. Your kiln fired like you think normal, and you open it up and everything looks like garbage because it's under fired. You don't have, if you don't have witness cones, you don't have any information to tell your brain, oh, hey, I barely got to cone 4. Why? That's really weird. And then again, it's getting back to that baseline question. Okay, what's going on if we didn't get to the cone I wanted to go to? Do I have an element out? Do I have a relay out? Did I have a power failure? All those.
Did I have a tiny shelf that was not very tall and it didn't actually span enough of the elements to get enough heat?
Yeah. Or did I stack a whole bunch of low stuff at the very, very top of the kiln, and it didn't get hot enough up there because I overcrammed it. So, so I use witness cones in every single glaze firing. I do, even though I know full well that 9 times out of 10 my kiln's going to fire just fine until, what's today? Monday? Saturday? I did a glaze firing in my older kiln, and I came into it and it was still firing at 16 hours. I'm like, that's not okay. That needs to be off a long time ago for a glaze firing, and it was struggling to get to cone. But luckily, because it held at a specific temp and couldn't get any hotter, the atmosphere inside the kiln continued to creep to cone 6. Even though my thermocouple is saying, hey, we're not near cone 6 yet, it's a computer saying we're not near a predetermined number, compared to what's really going on inside the kiln itself. So, yeah.
And you would would you use it at bisque temperature if you're using a kiln sitter kiln as well? Or is bisque not as important with
only if you start getting signs that something is wrong with your bisque. Your pots are coming out really, really chalky, or they're not absorbing your glaze. Yeah, or they're overfiring. So every now and then, like once every 50 whatever bisque firings, I throw witness cones in my bisque just to make sure, okay, cool, yep, we're still on point, everything's happy. But if you start getting signs of your bisque wear that something's not quite right, then I would throw in a witness cone just willy-nilly, just to make sure. Other than that, I often don't. But my glaze firing, I have a cone 5 and cone 6 on each shelf that I.
Do you put a cone 7 in there ever, or you always fired a cone 5? So you have cone 5 and cone 6.
Yeah,
I put 3 of them in there, 5, 6, and 7, because sometimes I get to like 6.5 and it can creep up there.
Not necessarily. I mean, the kilns fire pretty much dead nuts cone 6. And even if cone 6 start to melt a little more, I can realize, oh, okay, we started to flirt with cone 7. But yeah, no, typically it's just 5 and 6. Now, when we would fire,
would be good for anybody to use. If you just use 1, you're getting a little bit of information, but if you use 2, you're getting a little bit more information.
Yep.
I think I use 5 and 6. If it gets past 6, I'm like, who cares? The glazes look better anyway.
Yeah, now I mean, yeah, and you're in my boat too, where I'm firing student work, and if it goes past 6, it's like, oh, we're gonna clean shelves. So.
No, I have advancers. Ha.
I have advancers.
I feel like we should pause to take a break, not a break, but a pause to do a little commercial for Digital Fire. Even though they're not paying us, but I was on there and I was like, oh, this would be a really good resource for people. So there's this website called Digital Fire, and it's all one word. And
what?
Digitalfire.com. That's it.
Okay.
And
Dot bananas. What do you think it's dot?
It was .net. I don't know.
That's okay. Fair statement. That's true.
Fair.
.art. I don't know.
You can so you can actually sign in and like create an account and like do glaze calculations through them. I signed in. I think I had an account once, but
it's phenomenal. I use that all the time.
Yeah.
Because like if you're struggling with substituting glazes or glaze chemistry for other glaze chemistry, you can look at something and go, oh, okay, even though they might not have the exact same ingredients, the ratios of this is similar to this. Okay, it'll be close, but I can at least substitute this for this. Or if I add in soda feldspar instead of Custer feldspar, I'm going to get a completely different result because one's sodium based and the other's potassium based. So it's things like that that Digital Fire is just phenomenal for.
The guy who runs it is a freaking genius first.
Oh, I bet.
His name's Tony, and he I like just even the first page, it has like information on making a plaster bat. Why throw in a plaster bat when you're making large pieces? Want bright orange? Use a stain in your own base, like all of these different things, and you just keep scrolling and there's just all these things, like 2 reasons why porcelain recipes need silica, and like it just keeps going and going and going. So definitely check that site out because it is super helpful.
Yep.
And as far as I'm concerned, somewhat of a pottery Bible online.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's phenomenal. I use that website quite frequently.
Yeah. Okay.
Becca, your video is back. Your video died for a second.
I'm sorry.
Do you want to ask about the so we had this question a few weeks ago. Would clay being fired in an oven be stronger than if you left it at bone dry?
Like if you fired.
So what did you mean by that?
If you fired it up to like 600 degrees, like the hottest you could go in an oven. So we were thinking about like people that are stuck at home and have to like transport clay.
Transport greenware. Yeah, bone dry stuff.
So like if they put it in, so if I like threw my greenware clay into the oven and put it up to like 600 degrees and held it there for like an hour, would it be sturdier or more brittle? Or would it change at all?
I don't think it'll really change at all. You're gonna burn off water. What other organic material is below 600 degrees? Because you don't have vitrification or quartz inversion until a minimum of 1,000.
Okay.
So vitrification happens at around 1,000-ish degrees, and then your quartz inversion, when you have a chemical property happening, you're going from clay to stone. You have to hit 1,100-1,200 degrees before any of that magic happens. So really all you're doing by just taking your clay up to 600 degrees is burning off.
Drying it out.
Yeah, drying it out and burning off any, found organic material that will combust and evaporate at that temperature range. You really got to clear 1,000 degrees before your clay will become more durable.
Stronger.
As it were. Yeah.
All right, so don't try that.
Now, I am not above putting a whole bunch of mugs on a cookie sheet in my own oven and setting the oven at 180 degrees and burning off moisture, for a couple hours and then putting them in the kiln. So I've done that where my wife's yelling at me. She was like, "Why is there mugs in the oven?" Because you didn't bake cookies. That's why there's mugs in the oven.
Well, it's cheaper to put it in the kiln.
Not if I need to just dry out a couple mugs.
Might as well just hold the whole thing.
Don't put it in the microwave. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
No, that'll blow it up. So yeah.
Okay. Can you explain
what you got, Becca?
Can you explain what a flux is?
Mm-hmm. So Marty McFly went back in time. We gotta go back. I just watched. When you sent me these questions and I was scrolling through them, I know if they did a reboot, that would be like Doc Brown's grandson or something. Like found the plans to the DeLorean in the barn, and that would be so magical. Anyway, we digress. I told y'all it's going to get janky at the end of this.
Yeah, we're already at like an hour, and I was like, I don't know if we're even going to hold it down.
A flux is just a fancy word for a melting agent. What you want to melt is the silica in your glaze or your clay or whatever you're trying to bring the temperature, the melting agent down to. So things like alumina, boron, those are your fluxes.
Could you explain what else is a flux? What else are fluxes? Because I don't use alumina or boron in either of my glazes, any of my glazes.
Yes, you do. It's in normal things. So like Nefsi. I'm gonna need to go to Digital Fire.
Oh, I use Nefsi.
Yeah.
So is boron in Nefsi?
I think so. Hang on.
Why don't you know all the answers, Josh?
What about like frits or frits?
So a frit is, hang on. So what you want to do, think of a frit like it's Bisquick. So if you're going to make pancakes, you can make pancakes from scratch using flour, baking soda, sugar, eggs, all of that. Or you can go to the store and buy Bisquick. And yes, do you have something to share?
I never knew that. I didn't know frit was Bisquick.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't. Okay. Time out. Don't use Bisquick in your pottery. I just need to say that.
And don't
the blanket statement.
And make pancakes.
And make pancakes. Yes, you will die. Well,
you might not.
You're gonna poop something really funny. That's for sure.
That's going on Instagram.
Okay, time out. Yeah, exactly. Just that part. You're gonna poop something really funny. Hashtag JH Pottery Works. Nobody's gonna take class ever again here. Anyway, a frit is a combination of glass, some type of melter for that glass, and usually some type of clay brought to an exceedingly hot temperature. It's melted in a crucible. And then it's left to cool, and so then it's solid. And then they pulverize that into a powder. And then your numbers for your frits are different ratios of those same three ingredients. Does that make sense?
What? Okay, so that's just kind of like a quick jump start. Instead of using certain ingredients to make up, a frit is just a quick substitute. That
you could, quite honestly,
shortcuts in pottery were lying.
Yeah, quite honestly, a frit. I mean, this is a loose statement. Out of the bag is almost a glaze ready to go, because you need glass, you need clay, and you need a melter agent. Those are your bare bones 3 ingredients to make a glaze, and a frit is that, all 3 combined in different proportions, and then made into a powder. So my white glaze is a frit, some clay, and some glass, and that's it, and old Zerkopax. But so a frit is those 3 things, and then the frit numbers vary what those 3 things are.
Oh, okay. Did we get other flux answers? I think we got off track with frits, but
I was looking up nepheline cyanite on Digital Fire. Wikipedia, Digital Fire.
That's my favorite glaze chemical because it sounds like a murder weapon.
Yeah, nepheline cyanide with the. Yes. If you look at Digital Fire, it has a little bit of potassium, some sodium, 23% alumina, so there's a melting agent. Has a 60% glass, so it's a lot of glass. And that's about it. I'm trying to think what would have a lot of boron in it. Yeah. So yeah, and that's what I love about. I'm learning
so much.
That's what I love about Digital Fire. You can just look that up, and they give you the percentage rates. of those different elements that are in there, and then go from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about bentonite?
Yeah.
What is bentonite?
And what does it do?
No. What does it do?
So some potters, John Britt, love bentonite. Every single one of his recipes, bentonite in it.
It's like 2% bentonite, everything.
Yeah, bentonite is a safety net to keep your glazes suspended in water.
So it doesn't do anything in the bucket. It doesn't do anything in the firing. It just does.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's purely...
It's cornstarch.
For your glaze.
Yeah, cornstarch for your glaze.
Yeah. No, it is, my assumption, it's like Switzerland. It's just neutral in the firing. It does nothing. What its main purpose is to keep the electrical charge between the glaze chemistry, so they don't attract one another and then collect and then hard pan in the bottom of your bucket. What's going on there? Mind blown.
I was just thinking, if I put bentonite in my white glaze, would it actually suspend instead of sinking?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you still have to stir it. It wouldn't completely stay suspended all the time.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
It would not hard pan. Yeah, hard panning is awful.
It's terrible.
But what's going on? It's an electrical charge change where the glaze chemistry is attracting to itself, and then they're lining up and forming. They're becoming impermeable, and so then they go to the bottom of the bucket, and then all the water sits on top. The reason this is important is because people that dig ponds want to put soda ash on their clay particles to change the charge, so your pond doesn't drain every time you dig a hole. They want the clay to attract to itself and form a solid membrane and a barrier to keep your pond full of water. Potters want the opposite to happen. We don't want our clay and our glaze chemistry to solidify and settle to the bottom of our buckets where all the water sits on top.
Wait, did Jesus create the ponds that have, is... I'm sorry.
We're going to pause because we're not quite sure where Becca's going with this.
What?
Should we just move on? I mean, he walked on the water, right? Like, it wasn't... Did Jesus... Did Jesus do this?
The deadpanning in the clay. Did Jesus make that, or did man make that?
What do you mean?
Because of the ponds? Because of the ponds.
Oh. No, I don't know. Oh, I told y'all. For y'all listening, oh man, it's gonna get weird. Yep. Jesus made everything, Rebecca.
I'm sorry.
Including Oreos.
I've been fully listening.
All right, man.
Let me think of another one here. Oh, God.
So basically, to sum it all up, bentonite is a suspending agent to keep your glaze suspended in the bucket. It's in that flocculent, deflocculent category, kind of like when potters make slip. You want as little water as possible and as much clay as possible. So you're going to add, I'm going to get
sodium silicate.
Yeah, thank you. To help that happen. So yeah, it all deals with electrical charges and who's attracted to who.
I had a purple glaze once. We'll get into the purple question next, but
I'm aware.
I had a purple glaze that was it was a lavender that I was trying to figure out, and I didn't do the original test. Somebody else did the original test, and then it turns out that I don't think she put bentonite in the test, but then she put bentonite in the 5-gallon bucket, and it totally messed it up. And
so would that mean your glaze could end up thicker on your pot if it doesn't have bentonite, or or if it's already mixed up, it would not adhere to the pot as well.
Bentonite will change the, I don't want to say fluidity. That's not the right word. Oh, what's the right word?
Viscosity?
Surface viscosity? That sounds smarter and better. Look at you pulling that one out.
I used to work in paint.
She had to bounce back somehow.
Yeah. Word of the day, toilet paper. That's how you do that. Yes.
There's a TP on your shirt.
Well, it's JTP. It's John the Potter shirt.
I don't. I just see TTP, toilet paper.
Toilet paper. And we're right back. It doesn't take long, folks.
Okay, continue.
Yes, your bentonite will change the viscosity of your glaze. So you might need to add a little more water or that sort of thing. Yeah. It'll do that for sure.
Ooh, that bucket's just sitting. Maybe I'll test it and thin it out super thin.
Yeah, and bentonite doesn't like to bond with water right away. So sometimes what people will do is just throw dry bentonite into their glaze mix, and then it just clumps up and is a pain in the butt to get through the sieve. One option is to make a bentonite slurry. So,
it literally is cornstarch. Holy shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like the common rule of cornstarch. Don't put it in cold liquid, you get clumps. So one thing I'll do is take like 1.5 cups to 2 cups of my glaze that I'm mixing up, put it in the microwave, warm it up, add the bentonite to that so it bonds with the water right away and doesn't clump, and then just pour that into my 5-gallon bucket. Or I know John Britt will make a bentonite slurry ahead of time, and then just add a couple tablespoons of that to his glazes. So
that's interesting. Yeah. I don't do that. I just put it right in, and I've never had an issue.
I don't really use bentonite much.
Bentonite is in every single glaze I have.
Okay.
Except for my white.
Okay.
Probably because you got that glaze from John Britt's book, right? It had 2% bentonite in it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And June Perry Red. And the white that I got, I just found it online.
Okay.
But.
So purple?
What about purple? What's your question exactly?
I don't understand why purple's so hard to get to. Like, I've been trying to make a lavender.
That's not what it says.
Make a lavender.
Read it for the class.
3 years.
Yeah, purples are just, and it's dealing with cobalt, and it just always looks blue, and
it's so annoying.
Yeah, and it looks blue by itself. But then you put it next to your blue glaze, and you're like, oh, that looks like purple, because you have something to compare it to. We even tried to do a purple test. It was a really nice, like semi-matte purple, and we got all the test tiles out of the kiln, and we're just staring at it. We're like, cool, we made a really nice cobalt blue, until we put our regular studio blue glazes next to it, and then we went, oh, well, that looks purple, but by itself, it looks blue.
So is there, okay, so my June Perry Red, which is in John Britt's glaze, that's the base glaze of pretty much all my glazes. But, so there now you know the secret.
It's out.
What? It's got cobalt in it and tin.
Okay.
Not very much cobalt, a fair amount of tin. And it flashes purple. Mm-hmm. And at like certain temperatures, and I've kind of always wondered if I kind of flip-flop those and did like less tin, like just a tiny bit of cobalt and maybe like less tin, if that would like even out and make like more of a purple instead of a red. Like maybe
because for my one raspberry glaze, we use chrome and tin.
Yes.
To make that. And I'm trying to think of how much tin oxide went in there.
Yeah, I was trying to make a raspberry glaze, and it was not coming out red. It was coming out like a light color, not a red at all.
Yeah, reds. Once the clay community got rid of lead in their glazes for electricity, we lost making really nice fire engine reds without having to use a mason stain.
This is total bullshit. Like, I'm looking up on Glazy June Perry Red. Not, I don't have my John Bright book here, but like, you do?
Yeah, I can grab it. Hang on.
But it's like pink. It's like pink. It's not even. It's a nice pink, but it
doesn't look like the one that you use.
No, and like in the bottom it has tin and chrome, but it doesn't have cobalt, and so.
Is it in the red recipe?
Yeah.
June Perry, poison purple. There's purples.
I remember a really nice ewer in that book. It had June Perry red on it, and I was like, man, that is a nice glaze.
A really nice.
It looked kind of microcrystalline. The June Perry red that I saw on it's on a ewer, EWER. It's like a ewer vase form that's in the book that has June Perry red on it, and it like grabbed my attention because it looked kind of microcrystalline red in the book. The example pot that I saw.
I always tell people that
look in the back. There's an index that's got all this.
Is there? I was just gonna ask.
I always mine flushes so nice and purpley, but it only flushes that when it pools because that's when all of like the cobalt and like my base flushes blue, and so it flushes over the red to make the purple. And so I don't know if that's the.
That is a pretty red. Yeah, 5% tin oxide and chrome oxide. Cool.
It's got cobalt in there, right?
I wonder. It does a quarter of a gram.
I know.
Please, whose scale measures a quarter of a gram?
Well, when you're making it at 10,000 grams, I mean.
Oh yeah. Then you're at 25 grams.
So I'm wondering if
you can maybe up your.
Yeah. Up the cobalt.
I would go up in a 0.25% increments, so maybe up it to 0.5 and then maybe 0.75.
Like a line blend?
Do a line blend. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of work.
I'm allergic to that.
I'm allergic to that much work. No, I just line blends sound like a sad version of hell for me.
Oh, yeah, and see, I enjoy them because it's fun discovery.
Yeah, maybe I'll try it. Maybe I'll try it.
That's really similar to my raspberry glaze.
Yeah, ours look very, very similar.
Yeah. Now we have a right fire engine red, but it's a mason stain. Is what we had to use in order to get Roxanne red is what we named it.
Red.
Mm-hmm. And we got exactly that's why because we had Justin Timberlake Sexy Black, and we needed Roxanne red. So
I'm bringing Sexy Black.
Yeah, why people name studio or glazes really dumb thing. I'm like, come on, no, let's have fun with studio glazes. So we have a new one called Rusty Nuts.
It should have been Rusty Nipples. It should have been Rusty Nipples.
I want people to come to the studio and stay.
It looked like
it was originally named Rusty's Nuts, and we're like, let's not make it possessive. Because people are like, who is Rusty? So yeah, that's a fun
I want to get like a nice light lavender, like almost like a Celandani lavender.
You could do. I mean, it's going to require next to no cobalt, but you could jazz it up with a little rutile. That might be fun.
Oh, I've gotten through my entire pottery career without using rutile, and I feel like it's kind of like.
I use rutile a ton.
Yeah, I've never used it.
It's about almost every glaze has it.
Pretty cheap too.
Mm-hmm. Now the downside is there is a percentage of iron in there that, depending on who the manufacturer is that you get it from, there is a iron level contaminant that can fluctuate. So just be mindful of that. If you all of a sudden order your rutile from somewhere else,
it's different.
And it's a little different. That's the iron. There's like a window of iron, what they call contaminant, that can fluctuate within a percentage. So.
Is that difference between like a light rutile and a mined rutile that you might see? Or is that the same thing? It's just what they call it on the shelf.
Yeah, it's just what they call it. Yeah, what they call it on the shelf. Because there was like one time I think I normally get my rutile from Amico. down in Indy, and I forget where I ordered it one time, and I'm like, this is a little darker. So, so I knew it had a slightly higher iron content, so I backed off the percentage just a little bit, and everything came out just fine. Now, where I will see rutile make a big, massive difference in your glazes, and Becca and I, you talked about this last night when we were doing decal firing stuff. It will change your glaze if you run it through a decal firing.
That was a great segue.
Yeah, it will look a little different. So smart.
So smart.
So yeah, just note that if you do a decal firing, and you do have rutile in your glaze, it will change the overall look just a little bit.
What temperature are you firing a decal firing to generally?
If I'm doing an iron transfer decal, it is 04 or 1945.
04, so it's a
and
bisque
not
temperature?
06. Not 06 apparently.
No. 04.
Oh.
Yep.
See, that's hotter. I thought decals were normally like
it depends
15 or like something like that.
It depends on the decal. So I'm doing the iron transfer decal. So I take that hotter, but there are ceramic decals like what Roshank uses and all that sort of thing, and Amanda from Bee's Knees, those are your low fire decals that also flirt with luster temperatures. So
okay, and the lusters are like 019, 018 kind of thing.
Real low. Yep.
Right. Okay. Becca, are you're experimenting with the iron ones? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm gonna get into some of those.
Yep.
Cool. I had a kiln question, so we get a little less sciencey.
This for the new kiln?
So no, not yet. So I always pack my kiln to the gills. Are there negatives of packing your kiln too tight, or in whether it's bisque or glaze?
In electric kilns.
Positives, negatives. What are the pros and cons of packing your kiln really tight?
Sure.
Not tight enough, or
pros are going to be if you do that frequently. That's going to be your baseline for how accurate your glazes are going to be if we're talking about glaze firing. So if I know I'm going to have a pretty scant glaze firing because I need to just get it done and I'm only going to pack 4 out of the 6 shelves, I will load up the empty shelves with kiln brick. So that way the kiln has to heat something up and produce the same amount of heat work to get the result I want. I'm not just going to leave, the space empty. So getting as much in there as possible is great. The other thing the con side of it is your spacing. And we've talked about that with getting your cones to even out between your shelves. It's if you're going to stack, 1-inch plates and you're going to do 2-inch posts the whole way up, that's a really, really, really tight kiln, and you might end up with some uneven firing because you're going to have shelves line up with an element in different areas. So yeah, while you do want to pack it tight and try to make the kiln fire as efficiently as possible, you do need to be mindful of the height of your stack and where that is to make sure your kiln does fire efficiently and evenly as well. Otherwise, you're going to get uneven cones, mostly for the glaze firing. Your bisque, I don't know. I don't feel like I need to plant my flag in the ground that says, fire your bisque this way.
Tumble stacking is fine.
Oh my gosh, yes, I've tumble stacked. Now, take physics into account. Don't be stupid. Don't
be an idiot.
Yeah, don't stack a whole bunch of plates on top of themselves and then go, oh my gosh, they all cracked. Don't look dumb.
Stack your plates towards the wall.
Yeah, lean them against the wall.
Lean them against the wall.
What about leaning stuff against the wall with the tumble stacking? As long as they're not touching elements, or do you keep them like a half an inch off the wall?
That's in that argument of like, if it works and you're not having, because all you're doing is bisque firing, you're vitrifying the clay to a temperature that you want, and the clay is not approaching a melting temp where it's going to slump on you. And if it works, keep doing it. If you're not having any problems, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Sort of thing.
Throw caution to the wind.
Yeah.
With a really packed shelf, you said make sure the shelf height is good. So let's say you have 6-inch shelves all the way up. If you have a shelf that has maybe 15 pots of a certain size, and then you have those same size pots on a shelf, and you could fit 30 on that shelf, on the shelf above it or whatever, is the mass of that entire shelf going to, I guess it's going to slow down or cool down slower because there's more mass and more heat in that section of the kiln, and it could affect your glaze results? Or is that not cool down, accurate?
Not necessarily. So what it might do is might take longer to heat up because you have more mass to heat to achieve the temperature. Because the kiln will fire stupid fast if it's pretty scant and all it's doing is just heating up dead air. Your kiln's really going to move up to a glaze temperature because all it's doing is just heating up air. So the more things there are inside the kiln to heat up, the more mass, then if anything, what it might do is might make the kiln take a little longer to fire. But if you have, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think through the glaze. You really shouldn't have any glaze issue if your kiln can get to temp, and then if it cools nicely, then I don't foresee. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
It's just maybe like flashing or something of nearby glazes that are too close to each other, and you might get some more of that with a densely packed kiln.
Yeah, or if you have a pot near the peephole, and there's a bit of oxygen that gets through the peephole, you might get a spot.
That happened to me. That was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I get that every now and then. Yeah, it's just a highly oxygenated spot on the kiln.
Mine was fired too low, but so I just had to refire it, but it was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, oh no, I tumble stack. One thing to keep in mind is your pieces are still contracting when they cool, obviously in the bisque and then also in the glaze firing. So like large platters or things that have a lot of surface area, I will put a dusting of silica sand on the shelf to act as little bitty ball bearings. So as the shelf, because your shelf is also cooling too, but it's made of fire clay, so it's much more dense than your platter that you made. So it might take longer to cool. So I'll dust a layer of silica sand down and then set my large low and wide piece on that. So the silica sand acts as little ball bearings. As the piece contracts, the shelf underneath can also contract at a different rate, and I don't have any cracking issues.
That's in the glaze kiln.
Glaze and bisque.
Glaze and bisque? I put alumina down.
Yeah, either.
Yeah.
Yep. Something to just, because your kiln shelf might contract at a different rate than the piece that's sitting on it.
Yeah.
Due to the size.
And no, kiln wash is not a substitute for alumina or silica sand.
Nope. That's just a barrier because until I get advancer shelves.
Tomorrow,
yeah.
Becca's good about convincing people to buy stuff. Like,
you needed a new kiln. Listen. I just need new shelves. That's it.
No, he needs new shelves. I helped him load his kiln, and his shelves are like ancient artifacts. They're terrible.
They were free.
And I mean, like, and they're free. I mean, I wouldn't. So the only time that I really recommend advancer shelves is if A, you suck at glazing and everything runs. B, you have a ton of money. C,
firing crystalline pots.
You're firing crystalline.
You did it for the weight, right? Your kiln, your height and your stature of loading kilns was too heavy for the shelves that you were using. Is that part of why you got them?
No, I got them because of D. I have students.
Yeah, students. People that suck at using your glazes.
It would be really hard pressed for me to, if I was the only person firing my kiln, it would be pretty difficult for me to buy advancer shelves for me.
Yeah, same.
Because I know that I have control over my glazes, and I know how much they're going to run, unless there's a weird situation that happens. But, my shelves stayed intact for years before my students got to them. And then in one day, I am not even shitting you, the first firing that I did with students, somebody ruined my shelf.
Yeah.
Because they didn't wipe off the bottom of their piece.
Oh, I got one even better for you. I had a student put a low fire piece of pottery on the to-be glaze fired cart to cone 6, and there was a pot turned into a puddle on my brand spanking new kiln shelf.
Did you make them buy it?
Oh, yeah, well, I showed them. And
my shelf thankfully had a very good other side, and I still use that shelf frequently, so we just took it over. It wasn't that big of a deal, but yeah, like if it was just me, I wouldn't need them. I wouldn't need them at all.
No, because most of my stuff that I'm firing, I use a 6 to 7 inch post pretty consistently on every single shelf. So it's not going to save me any height. Yeah, it would be same category, be more for the student factor.
God, it saved my ass so many times. I had a student.
Yeah, our studio Baker Hunt just uses the cookies, the kind of this tile cookies under pots, and that's kind of how they solve that. And then they only fired a cone 5 instead of cone 6, so that helps a little bit too.
Yeah, it also really freed me up to letting my students do whatever they want. To being like, yeah, try it. Like if it runs too much, it's not gonna hurt me. Let it run. I don't care. And that before I got those shelves, I was so like persnickety on that kind of stuff, but now I'm like, I don't care. You didn't wipe off the bottom? It's too bad. No, I'm kidding. I wiped it off.
Yeah.
How does that factor into your... Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I was just going to say, I know for us, we have a big glazed chip chart. And that way it does show the students, hey, if you layer this and this, it will move a little bit. And so giving the students as much information as possible before they fire is also really helpful. Yeah. Now, there is I don't know, try it factor of like, Josh, what'll happen if you put this and this and this and jump on, your left foot? Something will happen. So try it.
Yeah.
So
I think like before I got the shelves, I had a very strict rule of no more than 2 glazes layered because they do run because they are all the same base. And after I got the shelves, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, let's put 3 glazes on there. Let's put 4 glazes on there. We still practice like moderation, but it's not as much of a worry. It's been a godsend, honestly, those shelves.
Yeah. What was your question, Ryan?
Nice. I was going to say, how does that factor? I don't know what your point here about slow cool down versus natural, Becca. Are there differences in them? Are there benefits?
Yeah, so me and him talked about this yesterday just because what this question came from is that, well, first, when I was learning pottery... Does that have to do with
your kiln venting?
No.
I
think the jury's out on kiln venting too, by the way. But anyway, moving on.
Right. When I was learning, my teacher basically was like, if you can't just let a kiln just drop and go, then you're doing something wrong, essentially. And like turn it off and let it cool. He didn't say you're doing something wrong, but like he basically was like, life's a whole hell of a lot easier if you can just turn the kiln off and and let it rest, right? But I had these platters that I'm experimenting with that are like 12-inch platters, and they've been cracking, and I'm pretty positive it was because of the cool down. And so that's why that was on there. Like, what's the benefit of a slow cool down versus a natural cool down, Like, does it matter per kiln? Like, my baby kiln takes no time at all to cool off. Like, versus my like scut kiln that takes 10 years to cool off, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, and then throw that in, you know, I fire at a wood kiln. That takes days.
Yeah.
To come down. But it's also 2 bricks thick on either side, you know, and
right.
it's so
and like
it's
10,
of course.
Like you could fit an entire car in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're spending a whole day to fire it, so why rush it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. So anyway, where I have seen the benefit in a controlled cool down, think of it in terms of your toaster. So you make toast in the morning or whenever. Toast pops up. Your toaster is still hot. That residual heat, once those little coils shut off, but it cools pretty darn quickly. Same thing with your kiln. Those elements are just metal coils that are producing heat. Yes, you can have 2.5-inch brick, 3-inch brick for your bisque kiln, but that's really about the thickness, and they dissipate heat pretty well. Once those elements shut off, you have your residual heat, but that temperature can plummet a couple hundred degrees right away. Yeah. What you have inside your kiln is molten glass in terms of your glaze. So now your kiln shuts off. Yeah, the kiln cools. That glaze goes, oh crap, I'm not going to be molten anymore. I got to solidify and freeze in place. Whereas if you do a controlled cool down, you can allow the glaze to cool at a step down rate, which is what glass blowers do. After they're done making a piece to completion, they will actually put it inside of a kiln that will take it up to a specific temperature and then bring it back down at a slow rate, because the glass went through, you know, hot, cold in its creation process. So, you know, that's what our glazes are, just they're glass. So that's a benefit to it.
Trying to remember what the name of that kiln is, because I remember seeing it on a Netflix.
Is that called that wasn't called annealing, was it? Was it the annealing kiln?
What?
It's called like amphers. Something with an A, I thought.
Yeah, no, it's
We're gonna pause because Rebecca's brain is working hard right now.
Sure.
I also wanted to say about the advancer shelves that they're great for cone 10 too. Anything high heat, they're really great.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I love the advancer shelves. I just think they're ridiculously priced.
Yeah. Sponsor.
Annealer.
That's what I said. That's what I said. Roll it back.
Boom.
Yeah, so it will, now the flip side, and we talked about this earlier, it will change your glazes a little bit. So be mindful of that if you just willy-nilly like, oh, I'm going to throw in a cool down all of a sudden. And by change, I mean, you're going to get subtle variations of the overall look. Your blue glaze is not all of a sudden going to be, you know, yellow. It's not that type of change.
Yeah.
Your matte glazes might be more glossy or vice versa.
They might run a little bit more. They might
run. And that's what happened with Colby. She was going to cone 6 and then started doing the controlled cool down and then realized, oh crap, everything's running. So she then stepped it down to go to cone 5 and then incorporate the controlled cool down, and her glazes are, you know, they're spot on perfect is what she was saying. So it's all experimentation.
Interesting. Maybe I should do it that way.
Some of the kilns, when you fire to cone 5 and you do like no hold, it could still get to cone 6 or cone 5.5 or whatever.
Yeah, I have 2 kilns. One I bought for $100 off of high school. The other one I bought new from Amico. The new kiln, you tell it cone 6, it's dead nuts cone 6 every single time.
You mean dead nipples?
Dead, but what?
So you mean dead nipples?
She said dead nipples.
Dead nipples? No, it's dead nuts. Oh, man. Was a TV MA. You can't. Children under 13 strongly not recommended to listen to this podcast.
If you want to know what I'm talking about, I think he has a picture of his new red glaze on as a. Didn't you have it as like a post?
It's a test tile, yeah, and we put a little button of clay on there.
It looks like a nipple.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
Should get like a little bikini top for it or something. Moving on. Yeah, my old kiln, if I told it to go to cone 6, it went to cone 7. If I told it to go to cone 5, it went to cone 5. And I'm like, what the heck? So before I changed the elements, I would put cone 5 for a 30-minute hold, and I put witness cones in to see what would happen, and I got cone 5.5-ish maybe. Okay, so then let's do cone 5, 45-minute hold and see what I got. And that was pretty much dead on cone 6, based on the witness cones inside my kiln. So just again, another proponent as to why using witness cones is good to figure out what the heck's going on inside your kiln. So yeah, but once I replace the elements, then it fires cone 6 no problem. So.
Interesting.
Should I replace elements on this new kiln I got before I fire it? Should I replace all the elements on it?
No, run a test and see what's going on.
Do a test. Close the kiln, turn the kiln on high. Just do a controller thingy, and you do it 99999, like one ramp, and it'll go high. And then do it for like 20 minutes. Open up the lid, and if you see anything that are like off,
not red,
then or do the paper test or whatever. Yeah, but yeah, no, definitely don't change them until you know.
Correct.
Until one of them goes out.
And then change all of them.
Well, maybe.
Maybe. Well, he has an L&L kiln now, so it is actually a little bit.
See,
changing those is magical.
And I was telling Josh, and I think I was telling Becca, I don't know who does this. I assume when one thing goes out, you replace the one thing. You don't replace all of them and spend 3 times the money. But I don't know.
Here's what I think. If you're buying a brand new kiln, then maybe. But if you're buying a kiln that you have no idea what happened before that, then I think changing all of the elements the first time is the way to go. And then you can do whatever the hell you want afterwards. You know, but like having a starting point of like all of these were changed at this time.
Yeah, like a baseline 0.
Like a baseline, like having that baseline. Yeah, like take the hit the first time. You don't have to the next times, but good chances all of them are going to go out at the same time anyway. The next time.
Yeah, I've replaced on my older kiln because the bottom bricks are kind of janky at best, so the elements will expand and kind of come undone. I've replaced that single element once already, knowing I bought the kiln as is and I'm already on borrowed time. But again, everything has been firing just fine up until the other day when it took 16 hours to barely get to cone 5. Okay, this is, bought the kiln 3 years ago for $100. I think I got my money's worth out of it.
Put some money up.
Yeah.
Money up.
So,
are you going to replace bricks too while you're doing that replacement of the elements? Since you said your bricks are kind of wonky.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was a kiln from a high school. So.
Well, and then you always move it, and that bottom brick always gets all like weird. They need to invent some sort of like a kiln cup that goes on like the bottom, like a cup.
Yeah.
Goes, like a shield for the bottom. I hate moving kilns. Like the bottom one, it's just so stressful.
The bottom ring, you mean?
That.
Like, well, just the bottom ring, but the bottom, where that bottom element is, I feel like it always gets cracked.
Oh, yeah.
Or wherever they touch, even in my scut kiln where all the like levels touch, there's always something wrong.
Yeah, L&L killed it when they came out with
for sure.
cast ceramic material that the elements sit in. Oh gosh, it was just replacing those elements is spectacular because you just set them in. And you're like, that's it.
I'm looking forward to this already.
Now, full disclosure, do you have 3 thermocouples or just 1?
Yes, 3.
The 3? Okay. Now, good side, even firings like you can't imagine. Downside is if one thermocouple decides to be a little snothead and is like, I don't want to fire today. The other 2 go, okay, we're on break. And then the whole kiln just goes, we're done. We're not firing. That's been my only beef with L&L kilns is it
easy to trace which one has an issue?
Yes, because on your control board, while it's firing, you can push button number 1, 2, or 3, and it will show you the temperature for thermocouple 1, 2, or 3.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, yeah, it's magical.
Yeah, no, I know people that swear by L&L kilns.
Yeah, and you can even do, you can do it on Excel kilns too, but you can do temperature offsets. So like if you know for whatever reason, section 3, which is your bottom section, is really flirting with cone 7, you can tell the thermocouple to think it's reading so many degrees hotter. Mm-hmm. So that way it doesn't fire to cone 7, that it'll fire to, cone 6 or, that sort of thing. So I think it's called thermocouple offset.
Yeah, it
is. Okay.
So
yeah, I've done a cone offset on the Bartlett, but that's only one thermocouple, and that just got me further off the line.
The only other time the 3 thermocouples are a pain in the butt is when you're stacking, and you're like, I'm going to be right at.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I could never
we'll
do
figure
3
it out.
thermocouples. I have a hard enough time with one.
On average, when I would fire that kiln, it was smaller. That one was only 22 inches in diameter. Is that right? With 21 shelves?
Yeah. 23.
23, yeah. So I would just always know I'm going to put a 6-inch post on the bottom just to clear that first thermocouple.
Yeah.
How big is yours, Ryan?
Mine's 23.
Okay.
The 3, I think it's 23.
It's a 7 cubic foot. It's probably 7 cubic feet.
6.7.
The fact that you have that callable knowledge blows me away. Like, oh, that's the
your cubic foot knowledge is like.
I don't know.
Every time you say cubic foot, I'm like, what?
Well, I have no idea. No, okay, that's the problem though. I have no idea how much a cubic foot is. I have no idea what the cubic feet is, but I have had so many different kilns and different sizes that it's
okay. So you just So
I the baby kiln's a 3 cubic foot. The middle one is a 7 cubic foot kiln. The first big kiln that I ever had was a 7 cubic foot. And the second one that I had was 7.
So then you have a size locked into a visual size locked into what that kiln was, and so you can just recall that.
My 26-inch one is a 10 cubic foot. My oval kiln is a 17. So
I have two 10 cubic foot kilns.
Is it 26-inch shelves?
Yeah. Cool.
Well, I mean, typically, if it's shorter, then it could be less.
Yeah, it's 22 inches high. It's not 2 feet. Internal measurement is not 2 feet.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're hitting close to 2 hours. Should we wrap this up, you think? We should. Yeah. We should get questions from audience folks and see what.
Oh my God, if we could add a 4th person.
Becca Graves.
Yes. If we could have a 4th person just have a powwow. Yeah. Oh my God, that would be
round table.
Doghouse Pottery. Oh, what's her first name? Amanda, thank you. Yeah.
If we
I really liked her podcast.
That was good.
Or the one that you guys,
We could have a think tank, but we need to have some creative, fun name, and then we can have a little song at the beginning that we all sing.
Oh, together. Like John Krasinski's "Some Good News" sort of thing. Yes. That is little girl colors, and that'd be cool.
That'd be fun. Yeah, this was great. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling, I don't know, I could be wrong. Tell us if you liked it or not, but I have a feeling that most people are going to be like, that was the shit.
Oh, well, of course.
Because it's Josh.
Yeah. Well, not me, but I mean, you guys, we're awesome. It's not like I'm hosting a podcast. You guys are the ones doing the podcast.
Well,
let's get the smart guy on. I just make dumb YouTube videos of me, can surfing on my clay trash cans across the studio.
That was great. You should go look at his video for opening up the studio.
I love the one with you and your daughter, and you put the devil sounded slowed down.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
audio, and then you had this sped up audio. Oh my gosh, that was great.
I like the one where your daughter fell off the table.
Oh, that's right. That was in I think that was a thank you video to Amanda for sending the bug-eyed fish mug.
Fell over.
I just heard it because I'm looking at the camera. Okay, let's do the things, and then I just hear a stool fall, and I'm okay. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even know. One? That was Ellie. No, that was the middle one. I didn't even know Kay was behind me. Going back to the video Ryan was talking about of reglazing your pot that's already been fired. Because you obviously, you need to heat it up. And I just used a torch and I click and said the word fire, and she jumps behind me, is like, fire! And I'm like, I didn't know you were there.
Kay is such a spitfire.
Oh my gosh, she's something else. Yeah. And then that was in my early GoPro video editing days, and like, I can slow this down and I can speed it up. And she sounds like a chipmunk if I speed it up. So yeah, that's fun. That was a fun discovery of like, well, let's dabble in video. And then 12-year-old Josh was like, we can be fun and stupid all the time on camera. And there was no argument to that. So I enjoy shooting the videos.
Entertainment value.
Mm-hmm.
Entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So how can people find you?
Mm-hmm.
What's your studio name? How can people find you on social and all that?
That's my handle. Yep.
Yeah.
Studio name is JH Pottery Works, and we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at JH Pottery Works. And then it's jhpotteryworks.com for the website. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think it's that all across the board. And teach classes, do events, and I make pots and really stupid videos. So
it's good times.
It is.
And then ask him all your questions, all your technical questions.
Yep.
Or ask us, and then we'll have another session.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think tackling, and not just individualized questions, but it seems like there's a wonderful upswing in the clay community to get into clay now.
Yeah.
Whether you've had a class or been a part of a community, that sort of thing, or not even if it's your major, but tackling those not unanswerable questions, but those first questions, and then okay, now what do you do? Transitioning from buying your glazes to mixing your own, taking that next level up. I think maybe coming out with a couple part series on here's our recommendations for the hobby potter, here's our recommendations for the next level up. So
because all of this equipment has been around for a long time, like knowing how to troubleshoot a kiln or troubleshoot a wheel or learning about cones, like all of this thing is not reinventing the wheel. It's been the same for a long time. There's different opinions about things over time, but having to relearn all this stuff, and it's a lot of information for newbies and inexperienced people.
Yeah, who literally just want to make some fun pots, glaze them some cool colors, and put them in their kiln. But then an issue arises, and they're like, "Why does this keep happening?" And getting to the root of what the why is.
Yeah. So,
good powwow.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. This was great. Sure. And I'm sure we'll have you on again, and we'll be seeing each other soon, hopefully. So
yeah.
Good luck with getting your students back in the studio and getting back to some kind of a normal, I guess.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited. Have people back. Cool.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Bye.